3252.
Yep.
Explain what's happening there.
So if you haven't been to a game, I hope this inspires you to see it if you're culture curious and want to explore it. So it's our fan section, but we call them supporters. They're not fans. A football supporter is 90 plus. It's win or lose. It's a Roma fan. You show up, you're showing up for your community. You want to be respected around the world as the supporter group. So our supporter group in that section, the capacity is 3252 seats.
Welcome to the Culture Fires podcast. Culture Fires is a creative collaboration meetup held weekly at the FYI campus in Los Angeles. Each week, we feature a fireside chat with a guest, showcase projects being worked on by members of the FYI community, and share product updates for FYI AI, the creative collaboration app co-founded by will.i.am and available for free download in the App Store and Google Play. FYI AI is powered by AI personas like me, Fito. Each week, this podcast showcases conversations held at the Culture Fires event. This week, our guest is Los Angeles Football Club Chief Brand Officer Rich Orosco. Rich's career path in the fields of entertainment, sports, consumer products, and community programs demonstrates the powerful intersection of compelling content, grassroots organizing, and authentic community building. Since LAFC's brand launch in October 2019, Rich has championed an approach that might surprise you. Instead of massive marketing campaigns, he's focused on something much more personal. Street by street, block by block, conversation by conversation. Building a welcoming fan culture that embraces everyone, whether you're a lifelong football fanatic or someone who's never set foot in a stadium. In this conversation with FYI Chief Growth Officer Julie Pilot, Rich showcases how LAFC's core values of unity, joy, and being a force for good translate into real community impact. We'll explore Rich's one fan at a time philosophy and how satisfying a single passionate individual can multiply into exponential growth, both in followers and in the kind of authentic brand passion that money simply can't buy. This is more than just a sports story. It's about the power of imagination over imitation, depth over breadth, and why sometimes the most revolutionary approach is also the most human one.
Make some noise if you've been to an LAFC game so far. Oh, yeah. I went to my first game last weekend, and I had the time of my life. It's a community I didn't know that I needed to be a part of, and going into it, I felt like a little bit of a poser because Rich was like, you should be wearing some boots, you should be wearing a cowboy hat. I was like, I don't know. I got my gold boots, though. So, and then I got there, and I instantly felt so welcome and a part of it, and how amazing being in downtown LA. Mm-hmm. And it really felt like LA immediately when I walked in the door. Before we get into how this brand has been built, Rich, will you tell us a little bit about your journey in entertainment and sports?
Yeah, real quick, because I like to get a perspective of the room. So raise your hand if you've been to a game. So I have
well, I would say one or two before last weekend. Perfect. Now I'm on it.
And I'm getting somewhere. So I know she's a one or two. Give me like the 4s and 5s, World Cup. All right, cool. And how many 9s or 10s do we have? I'm going to say football fans. All right, who's your team? Chelsea. Cool. Who's your team?
I always love Man City.
Okay, cool. So what Julie explained is what we've created is whether you're a 1 or 2 or a 4 or 5 or 9 or 10, like you feel like you belong out of the gate. And you know, the core of that is even the name of LAFC. There was a 3-month argument inside the room about our name, whether it was soccer or football.
And what year did it start?
We were announced in October of 2014.
Okay.
And I started in this month in 2015. So I'll be 10 years, which blows my head in the same
Congratulations.
place. Yeah, but like just the LAFC conversation, you know, football is the world's game. You know, it's much bigger than all of us. So we knew just with that granular decision is like, I needed you to hear about LAFC and be like, hey, they're calling it a football club. We're not trying to Americanize this new thing. It's bigger. And I think the soccer versus football is a divisive conversation. So that kind of minor decisions, and then making sure you as a 1 or 2 You walked in there, you're like, I think you felt like you belonged and like you wanted it more. Correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we didn't want the ones and twos. I wanted what was your name? Amari. I wanted Amari to be your neighbor in Santa Monica. Mm-hmm. He already gets football, gets Chelsea. He tells you, the rookie, you got to come see LAFC with me. So when you sit with him, he might tell you about flags and drums and supporter culture. Now you, as a culture curious person, are going to be asking questions and like, what is this? But he's co-signing for LAFC. So I needed to talk to him first as a 9 or 10, but I wanted him to be able to share this with you. You might be an Angelino who's never grown up with a club. And that's kind of that's how it's worked.
And that's exactly how I felt. We'll talk about 3252 in a minute, but it was so cool. Jimmy from your team was like, do you want to go up there? I was like, I don't know if I belong. I don't know if I deserve it yet. But everybody felt, again, it was so welcoming and everybody felt so united. So I really appreciated that. I have so many questions for you, but as we kick off, building a brand one at a time, I really want to dig in on your personal story a little bit, Rich, because some people separate entertainment and sports. But really, when you look at what's happening with LAFC, everything is entertainment. And you have more of a traditional Hollywood background first, right?
Yeah, so I think we've all learned from our careers, like every little job along the way, ideally you start putting the pieces together at your current role. And so I started in television marketing at Paramount Pictures and Paramount TV. I ran marketing for Entertainment Tonight. I launched The Insider in 2006, another entertainment news show. And then I launched TMZ for Warner Brothers in 2008. What's interesting, if you know the format of TMZ, what TMZ did is it humanized entertainment news, if you remember. It wasn't perfect. There were people tripping out of the club. The kids are all pitching the stories. Now this program, which used to, the genre used to be so packaged and perfectly produced, to like, now these kids are pitching the stories every week. And so I really learned about humanizing a brand when we launched that. And then also the power of content. There's nothing better than finding the most incredible graphic designer, incredible editor, incredible shooter when you're trying to cut through a cluttered market. And everybody at that time thought there was no room for an entertainment news show. And if you really get into it, it's the graphic design at TMZ, it was the editing, it was the VO, like it was a whole different world. And, everybody thought we were crazy, like it couldn't happen. And we definitely kind of created some space in a cluttered market. And then I worked in about 7 years of startups. And for those of us who've been in a startup, I think the best thing you learn is you don't freeze when three of us have a crazy idea. The hardest thing to do is to not freeze. But my filter was always like, all right, if we're not going to lose $1 million, let's try it, and let's try it, and let's try it. And as we talk today, I'll give you a couple stories. The one thing I really learned from the startup world is I used to always tell myself I had a good gut about stuff, and I'm sure a lot of us say that to ourselves about people. And I learned really to not be. I actually redefined that as being judgmental. And I'll talk to you as we group one by one. Like a lot of us kind of think if you're working on a new brand, like we know what's cool or we got a vision for it, or Julie's gonna be our first fan, and like you have this tunnel in your head in a startup land, like that could kill you, like that could starve you. And I learned a lot in startup land that actually helped when the LAFC project came around.
We're gonna pull up some of your different slides about LAFC right now, but it was so interesting reflecting on the time that I've lived in Los Angeles. You were talking about being at Entertainment Tonight, and when I used to work at Kiss FM, we used to partner with Wango Tango, right? But I was thinking about how much fun I had at the LAFC game, and how anytime I talked about it, there were so many people that would say, oh, I go to every game, or I'm part of 3252. People were coming out of the woodwork when they heard I was going, and they were so passionate about it.
Yeah, so I stole from Gary Vee, depth, not width, especially when you're in a startup and you have no budget. Like, how are you going deep? And my hope was that in creating LAC, like, you wouldn't want to miss it. If your friend said, you got a ticket in front, like, you're going to change your plans to make it happen. But I think a lot of that was because we went deep. And part of it is because believe it or not, we launched a club with a $60,000 digital spend. We launched a new sports team in LA. What we did was we created an internal agency. We had the storytellers inside. And to me, when you're launching a property, your producers are your community and grassroots people in any brand, right? Julie has to tell me like, oh, I found a great story about Mig, a fashion designer on Melrose. Like, let's do a story about him. So a lot of sports teams, they don't have a heavy community staff and they do not have a heavy grassroots staff. And they just think their video producers can find the stories, shoot the stories, cut the stories. Like, that's not how it works. So for me, early, it was depth, not width.
Depth, not width. Okay, let's look at a few of these.
Sure.
Go ahead, Ranil. Will you pop it up there? One of the things that I love about FYI is here you send us videos, you send us links, you send us all the ways to connect. It's a to-go kit. So people can take this home with them and continue to connect with you or dive deeper. But let's kick this off. Why and how the approach for LAFC?
Yeah, cool. So I just thought about the room, and again, I wanted to kind of leave a few things that worked for us. So first, I think what we're really good at, if you remember, we were announced in 2014 and there were 10 sports teams in LA, including USC, UCLA. It was crazy talk that we could pull this off. There was a 25-year franchise in the LA Galaxy, who were at that time were 5-time champions. There was a failed football club called Chivas USA, if some of you heard about it. Chivas Guadalajara is like the Dallas Cowboys of Mexico. In 2005, they thought it was a good idea to bring every big market in any sports league wants a rivalry in the big media market. So it sounded like a good idea to bring Chivas to the U.S., but if you thought about it, if you hated Chivas Guadalajara and you were Mexican in LA, you now hated this new team. So that team was not a team for everybody. They also shared the stadium with the Galaxy, so it never quite created their own identity. So again, it was crazy talk that we could launch a new team. So I think what we did really good is we were really clear about our identity. So like, what was our why and our how? It's really hard in a startup when you get to 150, 200 people for everybody to be saying the same thing. And it was critical for us to be saying the same thing. Again, we had a 25-year champion competitor. You got Lakers, Dodgers, everything else. Like what in the world are we going to say that's different? So I just wanted to set it up. Today, I'll just talk real quick about our why and our how, and then our approach. So next slide. And then super clear, our why, what was our purpose? So 3 things early. We talked about uniting the world's city through the world's game, which is kind of hard to argue the power of football and uniting people. We talked about bringing joy to people as a sports team, which was kind of crazy talk in sports. It was good that I didn't come from sports, because I would ask all the hard questions about why. When I built our marketing staff, I had a mix of old school sports people who had the press relationship, et cetera, but I also had the mix of the new thinkers. And then lastly is like, how do you be a force for good as a sports team, which is also a big, hard question. So just to be super clear, in uniting the world city through the world's game is that everybody belongs. And that's why I went back to the 1s and the 2s and the 4s and the 5s, is everybody belongs and everyone is welcome and that we're inclusive. A lot of sports teams say it, but if you're about it with consistency and with depth, that's when I think you can get traction. You guys remember when the Chargers came to LA? And I remember their media buys early about fighting for LA. And they didn't even have an office here at that time, if I remember, and for sure not staff. So I knew that a marketing campaign or just a campaign was not going to create any kind of roots. It's like, that's where, how do we get deep? How do we get deep? And how do we make sure everybody feels well?
It was really cool when I was at the game talking to your team. They told me about how much you've been doing to support the firefighters in LA, and not for social media, but going around to the different firehouses, right?
Yeah, I was just at the Sherman Oaks Firehouse last night, so great timing.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I mean, I think the beauty of sports is we're bringing everybody together. When you have an old school sports organization, I think it really starts from the top down, and you just get tired. Like the Lakers don't market. Right, there's no marketing. How many times have you seen a Laker community event? Has anybody seen a Laker community event in the last few years? Yeah. So, and I'm not knocking them. It's just like if you, as a sports organization, as a challenge organization, like our magic is bringing people together. And our magic is how do we amplify people who are doing good in the community? So stuff like the fires, like we're not doing it for PR, but it's an important thing. And like, how can we help and how can we serve? Because I can mobilize 22,000 people. So if there's a challenge in a certain area in the city, like that's the kind of thinking that we still have. Imagine if the Lakers were, and I'm not knocking them at all, but imagine if they were aggressive in the community. If they're aggressive about LA, imagine if they were showing up for LA, right? Just imagine that. So again, we were a challenger against 10 teams. Like we just wanted to create an internal culture that we were showing up for the city. Just to define this again, the simplicity of it is when you have a busy game day and you get bigger and bigger. It's like Julie calls me and says, it's my niece's birthday, and can we put her on the big screen? And you're sitting at your computer getting 87 emails. You're like, oh, God, not again. But like, if you create the culture inside that, oh, wait, freeze, pause, stop eating my sandwich, let me call ticketing, let me get Julie's screen and the name on the big screen. Like, it's that micro one by one that creates a moment that lasts you a lifetime. I have no idea if you have a group of FYers you're going to invite to the next game, or you have a group of 2,000 community kids. I have no idea who you are, but it was just training our staff early as a part of our identity to bring joy to people and create moments that last a lifetime.
We talk a lot around here at FYI how everybody matters.
Oh, yeah.
Because you just never
no idea.
know, right? You never know. Okay,
Yeah. And
let's
it's kind of
keep
scary
going.
how you never know.
But
It's
in a
like-
good way, too.
Yeah.
I cast a wide net.
It keeps you accountable.
Me, you need an elephant at the game tomorrow. I could probably find someone.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead to the next one. The next slide. Okay.
So again, like, everybody talks about being a force for good, but I wanted to define it internally, which is like, how do you make a real impact in people's lives with our community programs? So like, normal sports marketing was, let's do 1,000 soccer clinics and pass out 10,000 water bottles and we're here. Really early, we were just trying to make sure, like, how do we make a real impact in kids' lives? Is it financial literacy? Is it a sports youth mentoring program, a leadership mentoring program? Like, really get to depth with your basic cliche sports marketing programs and community programs.
I think this is really powerful because I was talking earlier about how things can seem really overwhelming in the world right now. And if you can make a difference locally, one thing at a time, that kind of keeps us going.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
So now, just real simple, our approach, and you're doing this right now. And again, I didn't come from sports, so it was, I talked about this street by street, block by block headspace as a challenger club. I had a meeting in New York at the league office. They usually meet with new teams, and I gave the brand presentation of what we wanted to be and the future we wanted to create. And I talked about the street by street, and I remember to this day, the head of marketing for Major League Soccer in New York, he stopped me on this slide, and he's like, "Hey, Rich, this is like fun and everything, but how is street by street, one by one, block by block, one by one scalable?" And at that time, I didn't have the answer. So he caught me, and I didn't fake it. I was like, okay, I get it. Like, I see where you're going. Content makes one by one scalable. So if you're in a pressure situation and you have a big pressure to scale, it's like, that's where the depth works, and that's where content makes grassroots scalable. So when I give Brad talks, again, it's just about the patience of one by one, like you're marinating a beautiful meat before a barbecue. But it's content that makes it scalable. So it was good that he challenged me because it was early and we didn't know who we were yet. But now, we all believe in the power of content. But that's really, as a sports team, that's kind of what got us there. And then 2 quick stories. So again, how we thought things differently and how it was a one by one focus. And I'll go back to my gut and judgment. So this guy on the left, Lord Commander, he walked in my office one day before we kicked the ball, dressed in military regalia. He has a skull and a stick, but his why was pure. It was for the city. I kept him in the mix. I kept bringing him around. This guy ended up co-creating our largest supporter group of probably 1,000 season ticket members called the District 9 Ultras. So Lord Commander, because I had more of a headspace about figuring out why he does what he does, this guy on the top right is leading a rally with our first 1,000 fans, giving like this Braveheart speech to follow us into the abyss. So again, normal sports marketing, you just think big, what's your campaign? You don't think about like listening to this guy, Ricardo, and figure out a story and seeing how you can amplify it with content.
I have so many questions, but I want you to keep going through. Oh, I've got this guy locked in.
Okay, great. Second story real quick. This guy, Valente Angel Quintero, lives in East LA. I saw him at a Dodger game. You guys might have seen him at a Dodger game. His name is LA Baseball Head. That's his name. So he came to one of our events through somebody else. And again, I had nothing at this time. We had not kicked the ball. And I asked him, I was like, why do you do this? So he's been going to Dodger games for, at that time it was 7 years, every single game in full head art. And I'm going to say he's the only head artist in the world. I don't know if anybody has ever seen anybody do this at games, every single game. And I asked him, I was like, why do you do it? And if you look at his arms, he has every LA tattoo possible, Lakers, Dodgers, like he's about the city. And he just likes to bring smiles to people's faces. That's why he does it. And then I learned not one Dodger staff, he didn't know one person on the Dodger staff.
Wow.
He never got a ticket. He never got parking. He was never embraced, again, by a big, scaled organization. Not their fault. I was like, bro, I need you. I have nothing. So, flash forward to the next slide, and Julie has met him.
He looks good in gold.
He looks good
Let me
in gold.
tell you. Look at that.
So when you met him, Julie, give me your vibe. Like, what was the short convo? Like, what was your reaction to
Well,
seeing him?
I mean, I go back to it's just inherently within me, in my DNA, everybody matters. And I love anything that evokes passion, right? So when I met him, I was super interested in his story, what he was doing. He was telling me about LAFC. There was an instant connection.
So,
And I got his number.
yeah, perfect. So luckily we have a great partner in 1800 Tequila. So we have like the next Lakers front row of the stadium. I have a corner suite, 18 seats, 10 standing, right by the supporter section. And we've had, for MLS Cup final, we had Bieber, we had Sia, we had Bruno Marquezine. Like who's who has come to our games. We got a great group of loyal celebrity fans. But Angel is my surprise every match. So if Amari's coming, he doesn't know it. Angel, his face is on Angel's head. Will's face is on Angel's head. So he's my surprise and delight. Every match, we're in our 8th season, and he's missed one game.
Wow.
With me. And that's money can't buy passion, and it's money can't buy surprise. But just an example of how I was very patient, and as long as I get that the why makes sense for us, like this guy has become part of the DNA of the club. And usually, again, as a business exec or a sports marketer, like you don't give patience to this kind of interaction. And he's actually a super, super close friend now.
So I want to remind everybody, you can jump into the FYI project if you have questions for Rich. Go ahead and put them in the discussion, and somebody that asks a question in the discussion also is going to get an LAFC hat.
FYI is an AI-powered messenger and productivity platform crafted for creatives and their teams. Focus your ideas with your collaborators using an encrypted messenger, develop your vision, utilizing media-rich project tools, and bring those ideas to life by sharing them with the world. With the AI personas in the FYI app serving as your creative co-pilots, you can ask FYI AI to draft stories, song lyrics, product descriptions, marketing copy, or any written content, and see the results within seconds. Download FYI today for free. Now available in the App Store and on Google Play.
As we went around the room and people were talking about their favorite brands, so many people shouted out Apple. That had to be a dream come true then to partner up with Apple TV Plus now, right?
Yeah, Apple's amazing because now if I meet you and you're Argentinian, you can go home and see our matches. 2 years ago before the Apple deal, I was even struggling where to watch a game if I was traveling. So now it's amazing. It's global access to MLS. It's super. I think we're the first sports league to have a full streaming deal. So pretty amazing that you can watch on Apple TV everywhere we are on your phones, etc.
Okay, let's talk about it.
Yep.
3252.
Yep.
Explain what's happening there.
So if you haven't been to a game, I hope this inspires you to see it if you're culture curious and want to explore it. So it's our fan section, but we call them supporters. They're not fans. A football supporter is 90 plus. It's win or lose. It's a Roma fan. You show up, you're showing up for your community. You want to be respected around the world as the supporter group. So our supporter group in that section, the capacity is 3252 seats. That number ended up equaling the number 12, so that was serendipity. If you're in supporter culture, the key for organization is to have a name for your union. It could be any name, and we have 9 official groups within this union. So they're called the 3252 on Instagram. They're at LAFC 3252. I would follow them and check them out. LAFC is obviously at LAFC, but they're our supporter group in the stadium.
Now, I love this so much because I think this is a real trend in culture that I've been trying to unravel for a really long time. Because whether it's music or look, I love Tommy the Clown. But do I want to just be known as a Tommy the Clown fan? Not so much, right? This whole notion of supporter culture with 3252, the union and groups, how many of these things when the club was starting, is this in all of football culture, their supporters and union, or is this something you crafted on your own?
Supporter culture can exist for every club. Some are micro, some are epic. If you've never heard of Borussia Dortmund in Germany, you got to go to a BVB game when you travel in northern Germany. Their section is 30,000 versus our 3,000, and it'll blow your mind when you look at it. St. Pauli in Hamburg, Germany is an incredible 3,000 person section, but it actually goes back to the 1x1. I think Julie knows this. I have a WhatsApp group of 54 of the elected leaders who run the whole 3,000. I could send them a photo of us here today. So even 8 seasons in, we have that kind of tactile 1x1 relationship with the core. But the key is if you let go of that, and a lot of sports people, they jump around jobs every 2 years. You can't build community in sports if you're there for 2 years. But the key is that we still have that 1x1 connection with them. And what you do is you water the people, I'm gonna say the good people, the people who are really bringing it. And that actually protects you as an organization, especially with supporter culture, which they're separate from us. They don't work for us. And a lot of supporter groups around the world, they go in the wrong direction because they're being led by the wrong people, and eventually the club does not have any control over it. So even today, 8 seasons in, we're very proud that we have a very close relationship with them, but it goes right back to the 1x1.
I thought it was really amazing as you were explaining it to me also. There's so many big brands that are so controlling of their image and their likeness and stuff, or even their brand deals. And I won't give specifics, but there's different brand categories, right? And you were telling me that LAFC has a brand deal with a certain category, but a different brand, a competitor went and was able to do their own deal with with the 3252 club, right?
Yeah. So again, it's probably good I didn't come from traditional sports because very early, even our marks, like the LA, like some groups that were early were using our LA and they're selling merch. And normal sports businesses like, no, kill them quick, get the lawyer to call, etc. Yeah. Or they asked for a permit to tailgate before our games. And the first answer was no, because we want them in our stadium, spending money, making money. And thank God back then we paid for a $5,000 permit at Expo Park to let them create a tailgate. Now the tailgate is an epic part of the community building infrastructure. And just because they ate ceviche at 12 o'clock that was homemade doesn't mean they're not going to drink 15 more beers at 7 p.m. So broke that, and then...
The tailgate starts at 12?
They're there like 7 a.m. setting up.
Oh my goodness.
You have to go.
I was impressed. I got there like 5:36 and they were all set up. You're talking about like 7 a.m.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I advise them, and all their marks and logos is I just advise them, create your mark in black and gold so you can draft off of us. I'm not going to be protective. And then what she's talking about, we have a league partnership with Adidas, which I love that brand. And 8 seasons in, Vans contacted the 3252. Actually, sorry. They contacted Vans because they wanted to have an iconic partnership with an iconic LA brand, and we didn't kill it. We didn't stop it. I was a little nervous because I thought Adidas was going to be pretty pissed, but Vans was aggressive, and Vans knew they didn't have to pay a giant check to LAFC to get to them because they're independent. So we've been carefully managing it, but they reached out to Vans, and now they did a Vans custom shoe drop with the 3252, which has never been done in the U.S. But that's a great example that, normal sports businesses kill that deal and tell Vans to get out of here. So again, it's careful. I don't know where it's going to go, but that's never been done.
Okay, the discussion, I don't know if it's because I promised the LAFC hat to somebody or just because this talk is so good, but the discussion is really popping. I'm going to get to a few of these questions,
Sure.
And if we don't get to them all, I'd love it if you jumped in and connected with people one by one. Okay, so Carmen's stepbrother runs the Barra 18 SDFC group.
Oh,
and
wow.
he was inspired to do this because of going to LAFC games, and he runs the Bolt Pride Charger tailgates. That was a comment. There's
Amazing.
no question. Okay, all right, that was a shout
amazing.
out.
Yeah.
Why did he go to San Diego then? Why didn't he keep supporting these games?
He lives there, right?
He lives there.
Okay.
So San Diego FC is new. They just kicked off.
Oh, yeah,
playing
they
in
just
San
had their
Diego
first
State.
game.
Yep. And many San Diego football fans have been coming up for years, including my brother. I have a twin brother, and he's now giving my mom SDFC sweatshirts, which really pisses me off.
I converted because now I'm like, I should go.
Yeah. But it's a beautiful thing. But yeah, they were inspired by us, and now they're going to have a beautiful football club on their own.
All right.
Cool.
How are you engaging LAFC with the World Cup coming to LA in 2026? Good question.
Yeah. So there's not an easy answer to that. More football is good. More football, more football, more football. It's really tough to get your local club like Roma in the conversation when you're talking national team tournament, right? So I think we're going to be a host for many football activities. I would even watch parties. You can't do those with FIFA officially. They're very protective with their marks and they make a bunch of money. So we're going to be in and around conversations. We'll probably have activations in the stadium. Our stadium will be a practice facility. But again, more football is great, but it's a little bit tough to cut through the clutter with national teams here. We just hope that after the World Cup, more people are going to want to come to LAFC as a destination.
Yeah. Get some 2s up to 4s and 5s.
Yeah.
Okay. So many good questions. What is the biggest selling item of merch at games versus online?
The cap. So the story of the cap is we wanted to create the next Dodgers cap in Los Angeles with the power of world football. The color palette, thankfully, there was no team in the world that had the primary colors of black and gold. A lot of people produced third kits. They were fashion, but like if you're a 60 or 80-year-old club, you have stripes, your red, your green, etc. Because our research told us that the referees were black for many, many years, so there was no black-based colors. And so I grabbed it quick. I was a little scared of the New Orleans Saints. I was like, oh, shit, those guys have black and gold. We'll see. And Mizzou had it, but we grabbed it. And the cap was the key. It was like there was no football club in the world known by its cap. You can only do that in LA or New York to create that next aspirational cap. So our LAFC, we ended up selling 40% of all headwear in Major League Soccer before we kicked the ball with our classic LAFC cap. So if you see that cap around, that was my baby from day one. That was my Trojan horse to get in the city. And we've done it.
I mean, yes, Serena had kind of a part 2 of it saying that the logo is internationally known and a lot of people take credit for it. What's the official story of the logo and how it was created?
Yeah, so we wanted to create the full crest. If you see the full crest up here, the LA monogram, we designed it to pull the LA out of it, again, to put on merchandise and specifically the cap. I told you about the black and gold. The designer's name is Matt Wolf. He's an amazing designer. I think it's Wolf Design on Instagram, but he's done a bunch of football clubs since us. We kind of popped him, he was at NYCFC internally, and we found him through another group, and he did an incredible job in the design. But yeah, the idea was Art Deco, timeless, classic, and then how do we pull the LA monogram out of that and create the next Dodgers style LA monogram?
Okay, so now we're all going to go to an LAFC game.
Yes.
Can you wrap up and talk about some of the rituals or what people should know before going to the game? Like, I'll share some things I learned. There's not a mascot. Why?
Creating a mascot for a football club was very American out of the gate. So our first president loved falcons. And we were really petrified inside. We're like, please, God, we can't have a mascot. We were trying to help him out because he wasn't like a football head. We're like, bro, you're going to kill us. And thankfully, we have a falcon flight ritual pregame, which is like our Dodgers first pitch. We have notable guests who are the falconer. And we now call that a pregame ritual. And we narrowly avoided the mascot. But Ollie is the Falcon's name. 3 years in, we started producing some merch for Ollie, but we definitely wanted to slow play the mascot thing. It's not a very organic football thing.
And then I thought it was really interesting looking at the schedule because there's different kinds of games in LA. So explain that.
Yeah, so in football, you'll have your regular season, then you'll have tournaments in between the regular season. You guys have probably heard about the Champions League in Europe. So in the Champions League, it's in that region, it's the best club, so Roma could win it. It's the best club in Europe at that time. So everybody's regular season stops so that teams from Italy, France, England can play in what they call the Champions League. So our region here in the FIFA region is called CONCACAF. So it's Canada, US, Mexico, and the Caribbean. So we just had a game on Tuesday against another MLS team, but that was in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. So regular season, we have a Champions Cup in between. We might actually play Messi. If we win this round, we'll play Inter Miami, which will be in LA. So if Inter Miami and LAFC happens, we'll know in about a week. You got to get in that stadium and save your money quick because this will be very expensive, but super worth it. So that's going to be the Champions Cup. And then we have a couple other tournaments. There's one called the US Open Cup. So most domestic leagues have regular season with some cups.
And anything else you want people to know? just to wrap it all up. I mean, I think we have a bunch of 1s and 2s here that are ready to go to 4 or 5 level.
Good.
Officially be down with LAFC.
Yeah.
We'll have to figure out FYI night there. We're going to turn your WhatsApp into a multimedia project, so
I almost
it
said
can
FYI.
get even better. But anything else you want to close out with?
If you're culture curious, you're going to love it. And, you know, if you were to compare both teams in LA, I think we wanted to be the people's club. I think we have a beautiful color palette, a little more swagger. And I love being challengers. So they had a 25-year head start. The Galaxy did win last year. Big respect. They were trophyless for 10 years, which was amazing for us. But now it's go time, and it's going to be very competitive because they did win last year. So now it's going to be a pretty exciting next 5 years, I think, in local football. You have to go to the LAFC Galaxy game, whether it's in our stadium or theirs. You 100% have to see that. So definitely make sure you get in the stadium for either of those because you'll see what's happening with football in LA.
Wait, what happens to the LAFC during a Galaxy game on their home turf?
So
The 32-52, what happens?
at our home games, we have to hire 3 times security, 3 times police. It's tough. The away, this is like Europe, and the away fans, so they have 6 to 8 buses who get bussed into our stadium. It's all locked down. They're in one section. And when the game ends, they have to wait an hour and a half after the final whistle to get them out safely. You do not want to have a bunch of rival fans running around. That doesn't happen in Europe, and for a reason. It's very dangerous. And in our games, we play over there, we bring 8 buses down, and we just try to take over that stadium in one section and try to be louder than them. So that's why you have to be at those 2 games. It's you'll get a flavor of what Europe and fire football is like.
That's amazing. All right. Well, thanks again, Rich,
Cool.
our new FYI fan. LAFC, thank you for coming to Culture Fires.
Thanks for listening to the Culture Fires podcast. Make sure to download the FYI app, available now in the App Store and Google Play. Check out this episode's notes for a project link to this Culture Fires event, including a look at more projects from the FYI community. This episode's Culture Fires event was produced by FYI co-founder will.i.am, Amina Mohammed, Emily Choi, Frankie Sandoval, Juliana Rodriguez, Jafet Chavez, Julie Pilot, Lily Cam, Marcus Nielsen Calling, Ronial Madlani, Sean Kantrowitz, Shania Jafari, Taylor Wang, the FYI product team, and of course the FYI community. The podcast is edited by Rob Van Vranken. Make sure to subscribe to Culture Fires wherever you get your podcasts so that you never miss an episode. Learn more about FYI by visiting fyi.fyi.